So I hope you can hear me. Cross check. Okay. So I hope you can hear me. So welcome everyone to another live stream. And today is well, 5th June 2026, last day of the week for trading. And yeah, so what happened yesterday in NASDAQ? We saw that price consolidated in this range and we broke out of this, went back to retest, and then EMAs had a nice crossover on the upside and then rallied all the way till the end of the market. And then we saw a huge retracement with more than 1%, I guess. Or yeah, right around 1%. So yeah, there must be some news of the war situation. But we did ended up making a higher high on 1 hour, which we were looking at. Uh, because this is a lower low, lower high, lower low, then we made higher high. So we have to see, can the market hold above 735? If it doesn't, then it might be setting up for a nice short in the evening session in the next stack. But uh, let's focus on JB25 because that is about to in the next 5 minutes. And we can see that it's making this sort of a broadening pattern, broadening bottom pattern. And how it works is either it is made at the bottom of the trend or at the top of the trend, right? So if it's making lower lows and lower highs, then there will be five shifts. One, two, four, no, five. Right. So this is the first one. This is the second one. And then it takes out this low, it makes the third one, and then it takes out this high, makes the fourth one, and then again it takes out the lows and makes the fifth one. And so one, two, no, three, no, four. But the fifth one is not confirmed until we make this high, right? So we clear this. This is the fifth one. And now what is expected is that the price will come back down to around the middle of this range and then it will start rallying higher. But this usually is more strong when it is at the bottom of a trend. So this is of course not a bottom of a trend, right? If it zoom out, then it is higher highs and higher lows, and the price just pulled on back to those levels, right? So yeah, this is the first, this was the second, this was the third, this was the fourth, this was the fifth, and take out this, we could have bounced up from this point. But the reason why I didn't trust it, because of course it is not at trend. So does that mean, well, if you enter hoping that yeah, it will bounce from this because just because it is a pattern, a pattern that don't tend to like hold up 100% of the time. Nothing does. So you should never trust, like a pattern should never be the reason to take a trade, right? It should always be the price action. And then it is supported by patterns, indicators, or whatever, but those are supporting elements. Those should never be the reason to take a trade. Now we are seeing an active drop in the JP5. And one thing I was thinking about earlier, like yesterday night, was that uh, so I was having this trouble of missing out on good potential moves, right? So if you take a look at NASDAQ, I was planning to take a lot from this point, right? Not exactly the bottom, because you might say after looking at it advanced in this that yeah, you were trying to look against the bottom, but I was uh, trying to take a trade somewhere around this point, testing the previous lows, and I won't say that thi- uh, I was thinking that it would rally this much. I was actually just thinking about exiting it at this point because this was a consolidation. So I had a trade in mind that this is a low, so I'm gonna have a 1:2 risk to reward ratio, which was coming somewhere around halfway. And I thought this would be a nice trade that we take a consolidation trade. But I just hesitated and I started to blame on different things like I was seeing on a live stream or whatever. But at the end, the core of it is I was getting hesitant at that point. And again, to that, I didn't get any trade opportunity, but that was one of it. Oil is one another. Well, well, this was a nice trade, right? Again, this was based on impulse that there was no shift in structure and was just consistently selling off, but still I ended up taking a trade because of an impulse. And this was a nice trade where the direction is actually in my favor. But I didn't take this trade again because of my own hesitations. And I was saying to myself that, okay, I'm confident that I'm not taking it because of how much it is affected by news or whatever. But at the end, again, those things are again trying to, I'm trying to put a blame or a layer of blame, on something that is not me, right? Right. So, yeah, I'll have countless examples on where I missed, right? Maybe, I don't know, like this was a nice trade. But it's not this, but this was a nice trade. It was testing previous lows, and I was thinking maybe going long this, but I didn't go. So there were multiple times where it happened that I was so hesitant that I will be wrong or there will be, uh, I might incur any loss that I just didn't get enough courage to take the trade at the end. Is a reality of it. But I read something yesterday that you need to want it bad enough that you are willing to break those bad habits, right? And that is the point where I'm, I guess, struggling a bit because it's not like I didn't want this, but I go in certain phase where I just don't give it this much importance as if it is like I have figured it out. I know I didn't, but I just feel like I figured it out sometimes. And that makes me lethargic. I would say that, okay, I'm not going to give it the effort and time it needs just because I believe I figured it out. Again, it sounds so stupid, but at the end, yeah, back of mind, that is what I'm thinking. And again, it is not good at all. It is not good for trading. So, yeah, I don't know. Hmm. I'm going to change it, of course. It cannot be like this because I'm trying to be consistent in this. Again, I remember a time when I didn't have anything when I was trying to convert a normal 5K account and how much effort I was willing to put into it. Again, there were blunders in at times and that was horrible, but at the end, I was growing at the time because I believed in myself that, okay, no matter what, I'm going to clear it. And after a payout, I feel like I became less serious about this, I would say. So yeah, whatever. Again, I need to fix it. I will fix it. There's no other option. And me knowing this, that this is occurring back of my mind. Again, it is my responsibility that I should not let it happen. And if there is any trade opportunity, I need to take advantage of it. Because if I don't, then what good the knowledge is, right? The knowledge will not help me, but the self-discipline will help me, right? So again, if I say something that I'm going to do, then I have to do it, and that's a part of trading. You might think that, yeah, okay, in a daily life, because yeah, you can look at yourself that why are you not profitable? Because do you end up like executing all of the things that you say you're going to? again, because I could see that there are multiple elements in my life that I say that I'm going to do it or not going to do it, but I ended up doing the opposite sometimes, right? And that shows that there's lack of discipline in normal life. So if there's lack of discipline in normal life, of course that will translate into trading. What makes you say that trading will have a different version of you than the normal life, right? Yep, I'm going to work on this for sure. Now, listen on this, using active lower lows and lower highs on the sorry on the day chart, you can see the price is starting to go around. The next logical support, um, right, the next logical support is 65,200. So we can come back down here, then again bounce and still hold the pattern. Let's go on for 4 hours and we'll see that the logical higher low is 65,700 or 800. So yeah, market can come back down. There's a room, good amount of room for the market to drop, and then it could reverse. Now, the question is there any trade opportunity right now? Is there any trade opportunity? You could see the consolidation and then a nice drop. Again, no one could have cashed this one because it's making higher as it could have bounced from the midline or it could have sold out. So I'm not saying that uh, anyone could have cashed this. So it is oversold. But again, one thing about RSI is that it is not a timing tool. It should not be the reason. Like any indicator shouldn't be any reason to take the trade, but especially RSI, which is not a timing tool even. So if this says that it is oversold, well, just accept that it's oversold, but don't think for a second that just because it is saying that it's at 10 RSI, that means it has to bounce. Cannot be further from the truth actually, because a 10 RSI and simple one, two normal candles, not even of green candles, two green candles will make it go back to 15, 20 RSI, and then again a massive drop, and that will get the RSI back to the 10, around 10 level. You'll see the drop is now double or triple at this point. So RSI should not be reason to take a trade. I've learned that much, of course. Nasdaq is dropping 0.8% down. That is interesting to say the least. That's not updating. You can see the overnight is 734. It's not being updated right now for some reason. 738. Right, so this okay. So it is not being updated for some reason. Wi-Fi is not working fast. Still it's working. It's not like that. Very we have a gap again. Nice. At these levels, there is a gap, I guess. Yeah, so there is a gap at 66,300. Maybe the price can come back down there and then give us a nice bounce. Again, taking a long in this is not ideal because overall like structure on the smaller time frames. It is incredibly bearish, and this is like active sell-off. So this is the worst point where you can try to catch a falling knife and in the hope that you might get lucky, but at the end, this will hurt you so bad because most of my time in trading, I tried to catch this and it never worked out good for me. It never ever worked out. I don't know what is happening with people. It's not working. We have this. Right, so we saw Microsoft 428, Tesla 418, Pepsi is down, 127% reverse up. The end. In the start, it was up. Okay, it's not, but CMD is down again. Right. Hmm. So what am I looking out in CMD? Well, I'm thinking about this. If it holds this level, so very interesting. See, Pepsi is not good in investment by any means. I would even, I'm thinking about you closing if it jumps back around this point. This is bad. What's this investment? Tesla is still holding up massive. Well, Microsoft has sold off enough and might start to recover again. Yeah, with most of it, you'll see that I struggled to uh, take exit. Maybe I would have taken exit at this point. I did with UNH, but still, not the CMD, not the Pepsi, both. I was up around $100. Tesla, Microsoft. So there's a constant theme of me not locking in because even I'm going to late 78%. So trying to chase those highest points. But yeah, you have to learn from the mistakes. So yeah, you have to learn from those mistakes, and then on the next trade you have to show that what you've learned, because you cannot be acting as if you've learned nothing and then you repeat the same mistake again, right? That actively dropping is like it's 2%, not that much. I guess the price will come back down to 66 300. I would want the price, I would say somewhere around 65 800 for a nice long. 65 800 would be around like this point. Again, it could come back down if we three more. So so even if it goes to 65 800, I'm still going to wait for a shift in structure. Our trend is incredibly bearish. Doesn't actively make lower was in lower highs and oversold. Yep, I guess this might be the point where we see an rally lower high. The gap is now filled. If I was trying to catch a falling knife, this would be the point where I would go long. gap is filled. There you go. Support at the gap fill. Uh, Manage just to do this. Right. So I'm thinking a bit 66,000 according to this. All right. 66,000 is somewhere around this point. All right. There you go. A nice bounce. And 3%. That's good. Again, knowing that from where the price could bounce and taking a trade is two different things, right? It's like the difference between execution and knowledge. You might know some things, but if you ended up like blowing your account because of execution, then the knowledge doesn't matter. Same thing with this. You might know from which point the market could bounce. Sorry. You might know from which point the market could bounce, but knowing that and turning it into a nice trade is two different skill sets, right? Yeah, I might, like, I would say that, okay, I knew that there was, but again, first of all, there is a rule, you do not know anything for sure, right? There is always a degree of uncertainty. So yeah, it was oversold as I was looking very oversold, and the logical support would have been the gap fill, and at the end, it did pass from that point. But what if it doesn't, right? If I enter that point thinking that this might be the support, again, a nice reversal. I don't know, first of all, how much higher can it go because it can just consolidate one or two candles and then again continue its downtrend because of how bearish momentum there is. And the second point is about, let's say, again, uh, I wouldn't trust that really, right? Even if I, let's say, cast a bot, even if I cast a bot, I wouldn't trust it to go even till the EMA because it has never touched it after we started breaking below at 5%. We were just actively dropping. So why would I think that this time is different and this time we will go and test the move EMA and then break the EMA and all those things, right? So I don't know what is the potential upside, but I do know the downside. And yeah, it wouldn't make sense to me because if I, let's say, for a unknown side, if I risk $30, $40, how much am I willing to make out of it? Let's say if the highest one at this candle goes up like $40, would I close it? Say that I got a minus to one. No, right? So it's important to think in the probability point of view that first of all, the direction is totally against me, right? The direction cannot be more against me. For the long, it does not make sense. Earlier, I was just obsessed with these trades, but it is clearly visible that the direction is totally against me. So taking along at this point would not make sense. You see. Yeah, we might see a bit of rally, but what stopped me from closing out this trade when it started to go down? If I held on to it, it would have stopped me out. And if I trusted it, then of course I would win again. But the point is, why would you trust this? If there's this much of selling pressure, why would you trust a random place to have support that would stop this massive sell-off, right? There is a reason why it's happening. The market is at all-time highs. It is irrational for majority of the time, and it is starting to curl over this potential downside. All those factors are there. Why would I say that? Okay, no, this is the point where the market will bounce. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, it might bounce, but at the end, what I have to focus is not on the knowledge, but on the execution, the discipline it requires. So that is what my focus is, and that is what anyone's focus should be in trading to try to improve their execution. Because you know that I know for a fact that if I just took the trades that I missed out on or that I didn't take because of my hesitation, I would be like a completely different trader. I will be with a 70-80% win ratio with consistent like I'll be a totally different trader. So I want to achieve that version of myself where I'm not hesitating before taking any trade and I'm taking all the trades with the same intent and discipline. And whatever the result might be, I am willing to accept it. So I want to achieve that. And to achieve that, I need to not take these trades which have extremely high risk, high reward setup. Yeah, we're seeing a nice bounce, but who cares, right? For long or specifically day trade in the wrong direction, I need to see some kind of shift of structure in the upside. There is nothing that says the market is bullish. Right? So why would I bet my money on against the trend? It was bullish for majority of the time. Why would I leave it if in the time there won't be a clear? You will get bullish. No point. So it is continuing to go up. I'm more interested in taking a shot at this point now. Yeah, there's a triple V-shaped recovery. And to feel this is of course not a missed out thing, but there was a time where I was constantly chasing these things. Like if the market drops intensively, I would constantly try to enter an average down as it made new lows. And yeah, of course, you say after looking at now, you would say that okay, this was the bottom. Why didn't I take a trade? Well, it was actively selling off, right? And just because I, at this point, let's say, market was still oversold with 12 RSI and testing a major support where we have bounced many, many times before, right? So what makes you say that it wouldn't bounce from this point? Again, from this point, there could it could have found support. From this point, it could have found support. There was multiple positions where the market would have bounced from, right? And if you entering just based off this logic, well, you should have entered based on all those logics as well. This is just like a luck out of 10 different supports. Let's say 9 out of 10 times you are wrong, but there will be a time where you will be right in predicting that where the support might be. But again, that doesn't make sense because you will be wrong 9 times out of 10. And trading is a probability game. So if you have that much uh, horrible win ratio, then it doesn't matter if you're right one time or two times. You have to be right more than you're wrong. And of course, from a broader perspective, this is not a right or wrong thing actually. It is, can you make money with your execution, not with your knowledge, with your execution? Because execution is what defines your ability to take money out of the markets. So I'm focusing on that. I'm not trying, and of course, yeah. So what I would say that at this point of time, I'm trying to uh, work on my psyche, on my mind, that I do not have this without feeling. I do not let it affect myself. Right? As a trader, you need to be rational uh, for most part because you cannot let these feelings affect your next trade. Because you have to keep in mind that all those feelings that you're having, first of all, it is not necessary. You're trying to uh, attach this trading identity with yourself. That if you are, let's say, not taking a trade, you are missing out, you're taking a losing trade, that means you are not good enough. That is not the case here because in trading, losses and wins are just part of the game. So yeah, there might be a time when you are losing like 3 or 4 or even 8 times in a row, but that does not mean that you do not know trading because it is just a probability. Yeah, of course, there might be mistake that you might be making in most of those losing trades, but you have to again that is an endeavor. That is the best part in trading that you have to find what mistake are you making and almost like I would say 99% of the time, it is a psychological mistake. So you have to think what is it about your belief, about your execution that you are making a mistake in that is affecting your overall trading. And again, what I've seen is that my uh, discipline about things, my way of thinking about things is main problem because when I try to formulate it, it is through my rational part of the brain. After based on my knowledge, my experience, I try to formulate a setup. Right? I try to form a setup and say that this is the risk, this is the reward, and the setup looks very good. But after taking the trade, my emotional side of the brain takes over, and then I take all kinds of mistakes. For example, averaging down, averaging up, or after getting stopped out, I'm getting back in again with double the position size in just the next minute or so. If I get stopped out in that again, I'm in the position for 3 times now. So the actions by the emotional side of the brain, and I'm focusing right now on how not to fall into that category. Right? So yeah, right now I'm just clear in my head that there wasn't any opportunity that I could have taken. The market opened at 5:30 at this point, right? And yeah, I knew that this could have been a support, but I didn't know for sure. And again, it's not worth the risk because, of course, you never know for sure that this is a support, not. Uh, but it is not worth the risk. That is the main point. It's not that if I knew it, like if I knew it sort of, then why didn't I take the trade? Because at the end, I have to take the risk, right? But at the end, that is not the point. The point is this is simply a case of trend. Even after knowing it, the criteria don't matter for oversold reversal. Of course, it needs to be oversold and basically was support, but the support could be anything, right? And Just the word ratio, of course, is the shift of structure. No, there was no shift in structure. There was no consolidation. It was a V-shaped recovery. And I have to trade based on what mistakes I'm making, have I been making over my past trading life. And that is exactly this, trying to catch a falling knife. So yeah, I might look back and say that I was right, that this market could have bounced, and it did bounce, but at the end it was just not worth the trade. It was just not worth the risk, right? And that is why I didn't take. It's not like I want the perfect consolidation and the perfect setup. I know I'm never going to get those perfect setups, but I cannot be rational enough to say that this is the setup same as the setup that I do take time to time, right? That is not the point. So market is trying to hold up at this point, but we are in an active drop. So we need to break above this resistance at 67 800 to say that uh, we are having a shift in structure. But if we're not, then we're not. Nasdaq is selling off, and this might be the start of a nice uh, drop in the market where we can actively short the market once we do get the final confirmation. Because yeah, we could have passed from this point, but then we made a lower low. So we have to enjoy this, right? I guess this much is enough. Live for 37 minutes. It's been half an hour. I'll try to increase the timing of it, but most of the time it's boring mornings and boring evenings where the market isn't doing much. But again, the day like yesterday, there was clear signs of there was a clear setup, but I didn't take it. So focusing on improving in that. So you'll see me this evening uh, trying to improve.